All right, welcome everyone to today's Dev Fireside podcast. I'm Mikko, hosting with tonight Howard, Wendy, and Liz. We got a full crew. So we're going to be going over a couple of things. It's been kind of a mixed week, given that we have the Chinese New Year and we're celebrating some of that. So we're going to be covering a couple different topics. Some of the stuff that we've been getting from feedback, some of the stuff that we've been working on. But before we get started, let's just find out, Howard, at the office. I know that you've only been there for only part of this week, given the holidays and everything, but is there any exciting news to report from this week, or perhaps the last week going into this one?
Good question. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess I'll just sort of take it project by project. On the PS4 front, we have pretty much all the asset submitted. So the stored page assets have been submitted, and barring a few like formatting things that they want us to sort of revise and update, then we are pretty much good to go. So like I think right now we're just taking their feedback, and so for example, they want the trailer to be in some format, to to be of some file size and whatever. So we're just kind of doing the nitty gritty. And yeah, so I think with that, the next goal is to figure out a release date.
This is with Sony, right? Like the negotiation.
Yeah. I'm somewhat confident that by the end of the week we should have a firm answer. So hopefully by the same time next week when we talk,
we'll be able to announce.
We'll be able to announce something.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm sure people will be excited to hear that.
Yeah, that'll be cool. On the Hamsterdam front, we have done a lot. I mean, basically, I think that the main thrust right now is to prototype the last boss, which I think we actually have. As of today, we have a pretty good final concept for.
Yep.
We talked about narrative design, how to sort of bring out the meaning of it, of the game more, which is to, essentially it's like, the game is in large part about, sort of this David versus Goliath, the oppressed versus the oppressor,
with the hamster.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The resistance of the community against the oppressor and whatnot.
Yep.
And so we're just kind of talking about how to bring that out more. And right now, I don't think that reflects in our description well, as well. So we'll need to take another pass at it.
Sure.
But essentially, you're just kind of, talking about like messaging and where we can draw that out in the narrative. And let's see, the sort of the space experimentation with internally we're calling it Project F. Whatever
F?
Whatever that. At some point we'll have an interim name.
Right.
For it. But just basically project something. Essentially the self-action horror project. We're doing a lot of space distortion experimentation still. And by tomorrow, we want to sort of bring it on the table and have our weekly check-in and review again. And then Alex has been working on his project. Still planet building this week, just populating the world to find different interesting ways to populate the world. So there are things to explore, resources to gather, craft, and whatnot.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, it's just really like a lot of ongoing progress.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I guess some of the interesting questions people might have regarding this, and this is some of the stuff I've been hearing a little bit about, is, when it comes to, for example, Hamsterdam, super fun game. For those of you who have tried it, you're familiar with the whole tapping and swiping and different motions you can use for that. Has there been any interesting sort of I guess, realizations or something you've taken from the development in Hamsterdam so far, given, where it's come from, like since, say, Poznan or even some of the more recent events? Has there been some interesting design concepts that have been introduced that I say, hey, this actually works really well, or something that was thought to be a really popular concept but actually kind of fell flat on its face? Was there anything interesting to elaborate on that front as far as how that development for Hamsterdam goes?
Yeah, I mean, I would say a lot of it. There are a lot of things that we experimented and ended up not working. And for any number of reasons, whether it's like ease of use, people don't understand it, or like going too counter to the rest of the design, right? So, so for example, like for a while we introduced like this dodge mechanic, right, where like the enemy will throw a bomb or a trash can, whatever. Basically throw an object at you, and we sort of like, so where you can like fruit ninja style, like swiping at it to block it, or last minute you can like do a swipe gesture in the opposite direction to sort of dodge out of the way. Like even with us, we had trouble doing it because performing the action, because like it's actually hard to. Because I mean, with Fruit Ninja, like you don't really have a character on screen, right? Like with a character on screen, like that, sort of location transition of like Pim actually going there, meeting the trash can, and somehow like make the trash can easy to swipe, whatever. That turned out to be more of a technical challenge than we thought. And then swiping, because like everything in combat is like about going towards the enemy and meeting the enemy head on, right? How you counter an enemy, how you like combat, and everything that you do is like about meeting the enemy. And then so like swiping is actually
up in your face, action packed. It feels good with the pacing. So it's interesting to hear that as far as that goes. Yeah.
So swiping turned out to be something that people are just we're not used to, surprisingly.
I really didn't like it.
It's like the swipe and dodge is like the one action that people don't expect, because it's so different. Even though it's just a swipe in another direction, like cognitively, it turned out to be like something that people just don't grasp, because it's so different with divergent from the rest of the combat element. Right. I mean, that's like top of mind. That's one example. And then as far as like some of the new like mechanics that we are looking at are essentially boss combat. So like the final boss is like the most sort of complex or intricate like boss battle that we had, which is like essentially a summation of a lot of the mechanics that we introduced earlier. It'll have 3 different stages, and they have like you do 3 different things in 3 different stages. It's pretty cool. I mean, we essentially like we took some inspiration from like the whether it's a Shadow Colossus or like God of War like stuff, when you have to like sort of quick time different sequences in succession and do stuff to the boss. Or we took one stage, we took some inspiration from like Mario Odyssey in like those type of boss combat. So yeah, I mean, you'll see like elements of those type of like boss combats in it, and
it's interesting you're drawing from those games, given that this is on a mobile device and it's all swiping as opposed to button mashing or combos or something like that. Like,
I mean,
it's a different experience altogether.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think that input constraint definitely affects everything we do.
Yeah. Now, Wendy's been actually at several different events featuring this particular game. What are your thoughts about this, Wendy? Let me hear like your like expert insights. Have you become like a Fu master after having played this? Like,
well, I've become definitely rounder and much more hairy. But yeah, so I think what people love about Hamsterdam is how surprisingly easy the controls are, even though it's so hectic. And even though, like, at least when I presented it, I didn't make people do the tutorial. I was just cheering them on, yelling helpful hints at them, like push, no, as fast as you can, And this kind of like cheerleading and action, like it really motivated people to do better and to take this input, and it became so native. to how people would play it. And I think like that's one of the hardest things to do as a developer, I think, is finding new and unique ways to make a game interesting. Because like at the end of it, when you look at what your fingers are doing outside of where you are, what device you're holding, what the screen shows you, what you hear, it's doing the same kind of movements over and over again. And you got to keep it interesting. But you got to keep it interesting within the familiarity of a person, so it can't, they don't have to overthink, because that's not what gaming is, or at least this game shouldn't be about. It's a beat 'em up. So I really think that coming up with these new innovative ways to do something that should feel so natural is something that Muse Games is really good at. And that's why I love Hamsterdam so much, is because it's bringing something completely new to the platforms without actually changing your comfort habits. So I think that's my favorite part about Hamsterdam.
Cool. Yeah, it's always good to get insights from those who are exposed to the most.
I'm exposed to Hamsterdam too. Gonna put it on my LinkedIn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So seeing it from both sides is always nice to see like what the ups and downs of the game is. So
like, you don't look like a martial arts champion, Wendy. And I said,
you'd be surprised.
I'm sorry, I have a black belt in hamster. I have the perfect train.
Do any of you guys have a martial arts belt? Like, are you guys trained in any form of martial arts? Out of curiosity,
not unless they count sitting on my ass now.
I mean, I've done kickboxing for several years, but I kind of messed around with Kung Fu, but it wasn't anything I actually got serious into.
Yeah, actually, yes. So Eric is like,
he's a martial artist.
Yeah. Hey, Eric, what's the form of martial art you do? What's it called again? Subakdo. Yeah, Subakdo. Like Eric's like Subakdo. I don't think I would recognize that one.
Tell Eric I have stairs in my flat, so that counts.
Derek's basically a Wing Chun master, as in like his dad is like essentially a certified Wing Chun master.
That's interesting that you mentioned like parents, like, because my girlfriend, and I know some of my friends, former colleagues too, all of them are like in some form of martial arts, and they're very talented at it. But it's also because their parents are involved with it, and they're like super hardcore too. So it's like it's almost like it passes down a generation.
Of course, because
if you have parents that do it, you get exposed to it a lot yourself, and then you become. Yeah. I had a colleague from my D3 publisher days, and he was always like, "Oh man, I wish someone would just start a fight with me." Like, he's just like, "Come on, start a fight." Like, I'm like, you seem like you could completely destroy me with your two fingers. I don't know if I really.
Yeah, like that doesn't seem very fair.
I mean, I don't.
Get on my level. Eat that entire bag of chips in one go.
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly defense, but it's like I don't know. I guess he's just kind of like he's just waiting for that day when someone gets rowdy.
Attack anyone to defend themselves with. Like, what are you gonna do?
I mean, for me, I just took. I mean, so like I learned. Hey, Derek, how
You're
long
a rock climber though. You're like
maybe a year, year and a half, year, somewhere around there. Yeah. So basically, I mean, I used to box in a box for, or say like 2.5
You did
years.
boxing, really?
Yeah.
Oh man, we could have been sparring at some point.
And then
do it later.
I took about a year to year and a half of Wing Chun from Derek. So so he taught me Wing Chun for about that. I mean, I'm not like an expert or anything, but
what was interesting about that form exactly?
It is
your style, or
very, so it's Wing Chun is like it's what in part what Bruce Lee, for example, trained in. I mean, that's like the easiest way to tell people, like, it's like what Donnie Yen does, but obviously in movies it's all choreographed and whatever,
right?
But so what he trains in, so it's like a lot about practical short close quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. It's pretty well rounded, but it's also like very effective in close quarter, and like it emphasizes simultaneous. It's basically essentially simultaneous attack, right? It's like you simultaneously break down someone's defense and also initiate, and also attack.
And you said this is close quarters focus. Like that seems so appropriate for New York. Like everything's so crammed together.
Yeah, I mean, just
don't worry, like 1 square foot, instant.
Yeah, it's very practical. It's very.
I can see that. Yeah.
In practice, very practical. But in like learning is also very spiritual, because I mean a lot of like so the forms are developed to be meant for it's almost like Tai Chi, like, right, when I'm practicing the form, you learn the form. So I'll learn the form from Derek, we'll do it together, and memorize the forms, and then it's just like when you're actually practicing, at a very slow speed, right? Which actually I think a lot of sports is like you practice in slower speed. With music, it's the same way, right? You practice at slower speed until you get the forms right, and then you can speed up. So I think with Wing Chun is a lot about like doing it's almost meditative and the philosophical, and like practicing the forms and sort of staying in the moment. Focus on the form and whatnot. So yeah, it's actually cool. I mean, it's a martial art. It's also a discipline.
Of course.
Philosophical way to approach this.
Yeah. So Liz, you've been pretty quiet. Are you like some secret like martial arts super master, and you're just like, I'm just gonna keep my head down and just like walk the walk, talk the talk, just like play it low key, like ultra. Like you're like Herculean, you're like holding up the earth with the amount of like powers you have, but you're actually just keeping it super humble.
#Heracles.
Yeah.
I don't have any martial arts training, but I can throw knives, if that counts for anything.
You can throw knives?
Yes.
Didn't you see? She was at a wedding party. Oh, you chose.
That was axes.
I didn't know you were actually professional.
No, that was axes. I can actually throw knives. I learned because I had seen Seven when I was younger, and Morgan Freeman threw knives in the movie. And I know it was supposed to like paint him as like really tortured and lonely, but I thought it just made him cooler. So I got special throwing knives, and I learned how to throw knives. I was like, I want to be Morgan Freeman when I grow up.
I want to be a black old guy when I grow up. Let's do this.
I had really lofty goals as a child, and while I may not be Morgan Freeman yet, I can throw knives, and I can make them stick. So
it's pretty hard. He's way up. I mean, Morgan Freeman's like God tier. So I mean, good luck.
I'm still young yet.
Yeah, you're still young, Cricket, working your way up in the world.
Young Padawan.
Of course. And I was on a taxi ride today. I'm heading over to part of town, and we were just talking about the Olympics. I heard that the United States made their first gold in, what was it, cross country skiing? Like,
but the United States
guys.
Can ski?
I have no idea.
Oh.
I have been watching the Olympics though. I have been trying to tune in a bit.
Yeah.
But mostly, just because I snowboard, so a lot of my interest.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Snowboarding is so cool. I can only ski. It's really lame.
But I didn't know this was America's first ever cross-country gold. Like, I thought they've got it before.
Really? I mean, I have no idea.
That's what I thought. That was my first reaction too. I was like, what? Really?
I think the United States doesn't really care about the Winter Olympics. That's the thing.
Because Scandinavia wiped the floor.
Yeah. Like Norway. I just look at the. I mean, I
Sweden, Norway, Netherlands,
whatever the medal count. I'm just like, wait a minute. This might as well be the Norwegian Olympics or something, because Norway is essentially just like.
You only learn how many Scandinavian countries there are when you watch the Olympics lead up.
No, it seems like the only thing really is like the only thing that the U.S. is, good at or better at right now is snowboarding. That's about it.
Yeah. I was sitting in a lobby waiting for my appointment, and like in a span of 15 minutes, we won like 2 gold medals in sports. I'm like, yeah, brush it off. It's all in a day's work, I guess. It's a tough life. But yeah, it's crazy. Like Scandinavia gets really hardcore about winter sports. Like we actually do world championship things too around the world, like international things. So it's a really, really big thing here. So it's not surprising that we're really highly competitive in that too. But it depends on the sport too, because I know the Dutch are incredibly good at the speed skating. I think one of the guys there actually he won gold obviously, but he broke the world record for fastest like speed skating rounds, and that's like it's like 5 kilometers of speed skating or something. So it's actually quite impressive. But anyways, yeah, I don't know, Olympics, man, pretty cool. I haven't been able to follow too much of it because obviously it's through cable television or like through a subscription or something like that. So I don't have a television, don't need one. So I usually use.
Couldn't you
Same though.
to like whatever streaming service without cable?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do streaming services online and they'll charge you, but it's kind of like a monthly rate, just like TVs. It's just that there's some of them.
You could just pay for like a month and just cancel it.
Yeah, that's what my girlfriend's like. Okay, if I try the free subscription models for like each week for different companies, I might be able to see a full month. Where I'm like, you go for it.
Who has that much time to be organized?
It's only 2 weeks, so you don't even need to subscribe for a month.
I know, right? Like that's my thought too. I was like, that makes it easier too. So, but yeah, Olympics, man, it's pretty good. When are we supposed to finish?
I will say like, just I'm sorry, like on the martial, I just thought of it on the martial arts front, right? Like, because I think I really am glad that I have just like a tiny bit of training, right? Just because I think sometimes just under whatever just call it different circumstances, you can basically be more situational aware, and kind of focus and control your emotions a little bit better.
Yeah.
Anecdotally, like
a patience and sort of
anecdotally,
I can recognize that.
Anyways, anecdotally, like I kind of got into it with a guy during like Christmas time, like in New York, right? Like in a crowded space. I was like checking direction on my phone, like sort of standing out to the side. And the guy just like sort of like walked behind me, like bumped into me. I was just like, "Yo, what?" He's like, "Get out of my way." I was like, "What?"
What?
Yeah, like no, wait, what? Like
close quarters combat.
He's like, I was like, well, what? He's like, want to push you down the stairs and hit you. And stuff like that, right? I'm just like, dude, seriously.
Really? That's kind of funny, actually.
What was his
They're
issue?
so overt.
But the thing is, like, huh?
Did he not win the Winter Olympics then?
Wait, what's that?
Like, why was he so bitter?
I don't know. I think
his team probably lost in the Winter Olympics.
I was gonna say,
this is not winter. Sorry, this is not Winter Olympics. This is during Christmas time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well,
so I think
probably got a lump of coal. Who knows?
And the thing is, the guy is probably like, definitely like, he's not in shape. He's like 50 something probably, right? And he's like threatening to like hurt people. And I'm just like, oh, dude.
Yeah.
Why are you gonna be that?
You're right. Like, it's just funny, like how people will be like, you want to threaten people and make physical threats, and then you walk really close to somebody with both hands down. Like just like at least get your hands off.
So I guess
anyway,
just to kind of go off on a tangent again, there has been some questions about the Guns of Icarus field. Some of the stuff that people were curious about. I know that like earlier this week we covered a couple of emails covering languages, and I guess we should probably just elaborate a little bit more for everyone watching in case they haven't seen that correspondence, since it's only going out to those few people. But the status with that, right? Because Unity before didn't support multi-language, right? So that was something we had to kind of shelve, just put on the back burner for a while, if it was even a possibility. And I guess now that we've updated the UI, the focus right now is PlayStation, right?
Yeah, I think so I answered someone.
Email,
right. The issue is a little bit. It's kind of complex, right? Because we did start off like building the UI because we had to, because Unity is like Unity didn't really have a UI library.
It was pretty bare bones,
and so like we kind of had to build our own, and honestly, like we. It's a combination of taking the expedient approach and not really being as experienced with it, and sort of just like trying to do something ourselves, and ends up like, technically we didn't really have, all the considerations for, localization that we probably should have. And now, like, to go back, essentially we have to do still quite a bit of like overhaul, both on the code end and also on the design end, to be able to essentially support different like language fonts, and and to have all that stuff render like automatic, dynamically. Yeah, that's not something that we can do easily, unfortunately. I mean, it's definitely a lesson learned, right? Because I mean, going forward, well, localizing in game will need to be a lot easier. Will need to be
out of curiosity, just to play on some of the like strategies we have when it comes to player created content, because I know that some of these players have also offered to help with this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, translation is actually
to offer like a portal, maybe like an input, so like people can say on Steam Workshop, oh, here's the Russian localization that I've developed.
So the thing is,
can just fire that up.
Like as text translation is that's not the issue.
It's not the issue.
That's not the issue.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Can like if I want, I can localize like everything in like just have the translated text done by a professional agency, like with all the text in game in say 16, 17 different languages within a week.
Yeah,
great.
That's not the issue.
That's not the issue.
The technical barriers to add this text in is the problem then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I had this question a lot at PC Gamer Weekender this week, because there was so many people who were like, oh, it would help so much if there was like a Russian translation. I was like, I know you would want to do this. That's not the problem. There's lots of people who speak excellent Russian.
Yeah. And I know that
Unity's not one of them.
Yeah. Another pretty poignant like feedback we've been getting is some of the content related to map, the world map. And I know that certainly our testing crew is looking at kind of formulating ways of making that more interesting for players, so it doesn't maybe feel too abstracted or too like too flat and stuff like that. Maybe there's more dimension to that they can create with that, and they have a lot of ideas. So we may see these in testing weekends in the future. Who knows? But one of the common ones I've seen is giving players the control to vote on battles and ending them. And this is a discussion that we've had internally. The biggest problem is that it's affected by, of course, the player activity. If you're canceling battles, for example, it seems the issue there stems from the ability to spam end battles until you get what you want. And that makes balancing for missions and objectives and progressive resource gathering much more difficult. And you can argue, well, there's no point in going for a territory that our faction doesn't need resources for. But you can also say that attacking that territory and taking it might open up avenues to resources at a different place, or at least prohibit that faction that formally control the territory from utilizing that resource. So if it's lumber or oil or whatever it may be, you can stop that faction from actually keeping that resource and slow their own progression, maybe even move it backwards because you've taken some of their territories for it. So voting on it, again, that's also kind of complex because it's so prone to being lopsided and unfortunately kind of abused, because this has been like some really in-depth discussions that I've had with like Eric and other people. And it just seems like there's not really an easy way to address that. And right now, having leaders being able to unlock, or collectively players putting in money to unlock battles, is a solution that more or less works. There's obviously a little bit of fine tuning, since it seems like there's some oddities going on with some of the situations between factions, but that's something we can always look at refining. It's just giving that control. As much as I would love to see that kind of function, it's going to require more thought process and how we can make it more streamlined for that, if that's going to be a possibility at all. So that kind of covers like those big issues that I know people were really curious about. Another question though, and this is definitely for Howard, people were curious about more figureheads, and they were really requesting a Howard ship figurehead.
Oh no.
Will we?
Yes! Yes!
No, dude, there cannot be that many people. Like, who's they?
I'm gonna start
Discord folks is a lot of the people that we have, a good portion of the community that gets on there, thousands, tens of thousands, and
tens of thousands.
Wendy, can you go ahead and do a Twitter poll, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm already on it.
Oh gosh. Look, I don't want to start something because ball rolling on something we can't even commit to. But
You
I was
already
just saying,
did.
well, oh god, okay. I'm just visualizing like this smiling Howard face, like on like a wooden figure, like reaching out for the stars or something, like those like Man of Wars. They have the figureheads.
I mean, honestly, I'd much rather that be like someone like Jesse Cox or something.
Yeah.
Well,
you've become a celebrity, Howard. You don't even realize it. You're like a community celebrity.
The community wants you over Jesse Cox.
But that would be an interesting, like, actually, as a poll, like, if there were other celebrities that people were interested in seeing, maybe that's something we can also consider in the future. Who knows? Like, that's.
Yeah, I mean, really,
I don't see a problem with that either. Really.
Yeah, the thing is, like, it's really a placement. Like a size, like placement is size consideration. We just like sort of have to know where to place them. But then again,
right.
I mean, Tim's right next to me playing Tekken, but
yeah.
Hi,
Tim. The newest one, Tekken, like 27. Like, what is it?
I don't know, man. He's playing Tekken, but I mean, just with figurehead. Like, if we have, don't we have? So with all the position already defined, do we need to worry about like positioning on each ship?
Yes.
We still do.
Yeah. Ship is like so different, and the figurehead shape fits better in some places than places.
Yeah.
The figurehead is like a workshop question.
Basically, yeah. Or maybe it's us creating more figurehead question.
Oh yeah, it's just like a shit ton of work to do figureheads.
It certainly sounds like it's a matter of figuring out where they're best placed. A lot like ship themes, it's the same complication. So
it needs to be personalized for optimal ramming speed.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah. I mean, in the past, like all the figureheads, we had to size them differently and place them, where they're most optimal. Based on design, I wish we can have.
But is that like on a technical way? Is that very difficult to do, or because I think players are, we tell people this, like, oh, we have to figure out how to place things. But people can say, well, you just move it around and just place it, right? Like it shouldn't be that hard. But is it quite difficult then in any kind of technical sense of the process?
Guess because we'll have to worry about like if it how it
clips anything. Or
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They actually animate too when the armor.
Yeah, it's just work because we probably the smart thing to do is to probably consider workshop and build something of like a previewer with like set spec or set location already defined. We didn't do that, so I think
that would have been a smart way to do it. I like how it leads with that.
Yeah,
fully aware.
If we decide to do that, that's
the challenge now is like, well, I don't want somebody to go through like, to create something like awesome and we can't use it, So,
well, there is actually, that's another thing. We have a lot of stuff items that people are asking about, and I know there's been a couple that I've been in touch with as well. We didn't have enough time to look at all those for submission this last update, but I know that I'm already in touch with them. We're working on adding some new stuff in for the next update. So we should see a lot of Steam Workshop items then. I'm really sorry, guys. Like, I worked, try to get that scheduled in, but it just seems like it wasn't enough time for us.
Yeah, and actually, I think since we're on that subject, like, we can also ask the workshop people if they want to, be on PS4 or opt out of it.
Yeah, we'll try to cover that as well when we and stuff. Yeah. Right, so I think we're at the top of our hour, so I'm just going to cover real quick some of the stuff for you players who are interested in following the events going on. It is a pretty standard week, so we will be seeing the Iron Fork of Friday 1 hour after this upload. And I think it's 2 hours after the upload because it's at 9 or 3 p.m. Eastern. And then there's the Saturday Chaos Skirmish and the Sunday Community Skirmish, followed by the Mind Munker Monday or Munker Mind Monday. I don't really know how they name their Monday things.
That's on Monday, though. Yeah.
But he has it on Monday. I know.
Yeah, Munker Madness.
Munker Madness, that's what it is. Thank you. Which is also hosted on Mondays. So if you're not familiar with any of these events, we have a lot of them in the in-game events panel. You can go ahead and click on events. You'll see a little banner listing that shows everything. You can click on links. It'll show you the forum posts and what they're all about and how you can be involved. A lot of them are pretty flexible. They allow anyone to just join in at any given time. Some are a little more organized, like Sunday Community Skirmish, I know likes to have organized teams. So if you have a group of friends you want to join in with, you can do that as well. But yeah, just check them out, see how they are. It's a great way to make friends and see other people and get in some action and try some different rules for gameplay if you're looking for something fresh from the deathmatch experience. And that should be it. So was there anything you guys wanted to mention for the weekend? Any good well wishes?
I just wanted to thank everybody who showed up at PC Gamer Weekender, who was at our booth. It was really amazing to see how far the PlayStation has come since CoxCon, which was the last time we displayed it in the EU. There were so many gamers that were completely blown away by how natively 4 different platforms, right? The PC, the Linux, the Macintosh, and the PS4 can connect to each other with voice chat, text chat, everything working. You did, like, people didn't even know until I pointed out that one of these things is not like the other, right? And the feedback we got was truly amazing. The staff was amazing, in case they're watching this, because I know a lot of them are checking us out right now. So yeah, thank you so much for making this convention so amazing. And for those of you who are interested in the other EU conventions that are coming up, or England conventions that are coming up, those will be, we are going to EGX Rest, which is in April, and we are going to CoxCon, which, you know, is awesome. So I'm going to start planning and reaching out to people very, very soon. But first, we're going to PAX in the US. So that's going to be exciting. So US people can see us too.
Cool. All right. So yeah, on that note, guys, thanks for joining us. Have a good weekend, and thanks for playing with Guns of Icarus. We'll see you guys around.
Later.